Have you ever heard that trading is a mental pursuit? That discipline in trading mainly comes from overcoming your mindset. I'm sure you probably have. Well, tonight, I'm going to have a discussion with my OG mentor about how I believe that trading is actually a spiritual journey more than anything else. So, hi, Pepper. This is Godly Trading. Thank you for being here. We are the live podcast. We're here every Sunday night at 5 o'clock answering your questions and talking about topics that I think will help all of you out there. So tonight, I wanted to bring in the fellow who taught me, honestly, almost everything that I know right now about forex trading and how to approach the markets. Brian White from Trade Masters. He is the co-founder of Trade Masters. I don't know if he's the CEO, the CFO, or the whatever FO, but Brian is graciously giving up his Sunday evening to come on here and discuss with us this topic and primarily what he is doing out in the world that's similar to what we've been talking about. So, Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. By the way, thanks to my producer who I dumped this entire thing on about half an hour ago with a brand new system. So, thanks for being here, Brian. I really appreciate it. Before we do anything else, tell the people out there who you are and what it is that y'all do. And please refrain from any embarrassing anecdotes about me.
Like you said, my name is Brian White. I'm a full-time fourth grade math teacher. That's what I do full-time with Trade Masters. Trade Masters is a trading community that I help co-found and co-lead while I am at school. I have somebody else doing the day trading, and then I take over some of the swing trading stuff. But we've been doing Trade Masters for not officially Trade Masters. We had some other names for it in the past, but over a decade now. So and we're just a community. Wow. A community of where we've really turned the trading into not only just trading, but faith-based kind of organization community where we kind of make all of our decisions based on our faith as well. So that's kind of where we're at.
You know, just for everyone to know how we got started, I stumbled across Brian one day. I was watching a YouTube live, that was actually a Facebook live of Merlin Rothfeld from Online Trading Academy. I was watching his, and he had said something to the effect of, "Hey, we all need people. We all need a community." So I just went and spammed every single person who put a comment in Merlin's feed for like a week. And Brian was the only fool who responded with, "Would you stop talking to me?" And we struck up a conversation. This is like 2017, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I actually, started learning from him. I've been learning from Brian now for years. Since then for a couple of different methods. Was with you back when you were just the BK2 and the BK squared days.
Yep.
And by the way, before I forget, if anybody out there is watching this either live or on the replay, if you've ever heard me in our coaching sessions or any of these videos refer to my buddy in Dallas who does all of his trading on a Monday night, this is that guy. So if you're out there searching, and this has nothing to do with tonight's topic, if you're out there searching for a trading style and you think, well, I don't have enough time, Brian has proven you can do all of your trading setup within an hour, about an hour on a Monday night. Isn't that pretty much how you still do your Monday night swing sessions?
Yeah, we call it Time Savvy Trader. And once you get the foundational learning of what we do, probably 15 to 30 minutes a week, focus on swing trading. Yeah.
To be honest, that's one of the things I love the most about trading is that it's so flexible. There is a style and a strategy. Mm-hmm. There's a way for anybody to find a way to trade. Has that been your experience?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I started, of course, my background was in financial planning. I was a Series 7 licensed guy back in, I'm telling my age, 1994.
Wow.
Which was really strange to even think about 1994.
Yes.
But I was working with mutual funds. What was that again?
Did you wear hammer pants back then?
Oh, man, I just can't believe it was I hear 1994. I mean, I was just a kid, and thinking that I was controlling people's money and what their decisions were is frightening. Very frightening.
This is before or after you spent a couple of years touring the country as a band?
Well, we started in 1994 with the financial planning business and did mutual funds out of a company called Waddell & Reed out of Missouri. And I guess it was the band kind of started up in 1995, 96. So I had been doing financial planning for about 4 years before I felt God moving a different direction, which just sounds completely strange. I didn't go to school for music, uh, but in 2019, actually 1999, we were invited to go to Sydney, Australia, to sing at some ministry events for the athletes for the Summer Olympic Games. Well, that kind of put a real crimp in everyone's schedule because all the band was all full time employees somewhere else, and so I guess it was
Wow.
in the winter part of 2000. We all decided to quit our jobs, and we spent the next 9 months kind of prepping for the Olympic Games there in not prepping physically, but how all that was going to go down in August. And I just had a baby in
Okay.
1990. So she was only 9 months old when we took off to go to Australia. And then I toured for about 20 years. And I guess it was probably 2014, maybe 15 years after that. So yeah, 2014, I came across an online trading academy. I was listening on the bus to a podcast, and I was not interested in dealing with money or anything like that, but it intrigued me, online trading academy. So as I'm touring down the road and I heard this radio ad, I went ahead and called and reserved a seat for the free preview here in
Oh, yeah.
Dallas. Yeah. And so even while I was touring, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be handling other people's money, but it'd be kind of interesting to see what it looks like doing trading. So I popped in, and man, I was as lost as a ball in high grass. I had no idea what I was doing. And this, I mean, again, I had 6 years under my belt with financial planning, mutual funds, stocks, equities, been to New York, but I'd never seen a chart. So I had no idea what they were talking. And we didn't talk supply and demand or resistance. We talked price, period. It was basically
Yeah.
nickels, dimes, and quarters. And so all this was all new to me. And so I had a whole new experience when it came to actually doing the trading part. But I knew that once I came off the road, I started getting involved in the trading part, sensing that I was going to be off the road in a few years. I didn't know what God was doing, but I knew that I wouldn't be touring forever. Number one, my girls were getting older. My oldest one was going to be a freshman when I came off the road, and I wanted to be a part of their lives. So by the time that they got to high school, I'd already retired from the road after 20 years, became a school teacher. And that's when I started really diving in to trading. And the key thing that I found was community. I had to find a community because what's going to happen right off the bat for me, and from what I hear from most people, they start off the community and they start failing immediately. And that seems to be logical. It seems like the logical progression of things. I blew up a couple of accounts. I wanted to day trade. I wanted to scalp. So I was on the 1 minute, 5 minute chart, and I'd make money, lose money, make money, lose money. By the end of the day, I'd lost more money than I made. And it was fast. And it really kind of got the energy inside of me. It was all the hyper emotional. It was a game. And I started losing too much. So I thought, okay, I need to slow this thing down. And I've told you the story, Pepper. I said, I got to the point where I got to the 4 hour chart, and I said, okay, I'm going to set my trade per my rules, and I'm going to walk away and go play golf.
Yeah.
And I hadn't become a teacher yet, so I had the time to do that. So I'd go play golf, and sure enough, as soon as I get back and I let my fingers not touch the keyboard, my plan worked out.
Yes,
My trading
exactly.
strategy worked out. All the emotions were gone. And so
Yeah.
I started having success, and I realized my natural trader inside of me is a natural position size trader, which is exactly what I should have been doing in the first place, because that's what I did with mutual funds, and a swing trader. Now, that doesn't mean I can't now go back and do day trading, because I can, but I had to find my natural person first, not what my greed was telling me to do, because I wanted to make fast money. I wanted to not have to go get a teaching job. And so I was making dumb mistakes based on a drive to have to win. And that's a recipe for disaster. So through mentorship, a lot of grace, finding a community that kind of kept me sane and kept me calm. And a lot of those individuals that I started with are gone now. And Al and I have kept it going for the last decade. But this is the place where God has shaped me into who I am right now.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about finding a community. One of the things that we both obviously are committed to is the having a community of Christian traders around us, so that we can experience the extra level of community. However,
Right.
I have found, and I think you probably found this as well, that there aren't that many out there. It's in some ways it's easier to go start your own than it is to find one.
We're the worst. We're our worst enemies.
We are. There's something
You,
about Christians that say you shouldn't make money, and I don't understand that because
and that's the
my
fallacy.
argument would be, my argument would be if you say that you're not supposed to make money, then you've never asked for a raise in your life. Is that correct? I mean, that's the logic. But anyway.
Yeah, and that's the same thing we found to be true too. Is in fact a lot of, and I wrote a book on this, a short little read about being a poverty mindset.
Yes,
and I grew up independent, premillennial, KJV only Baptist church, where you had all the rules and legalism involved. Now, I'm not in legalism at all. I'm not into that, but I learned that you were supposed to be poor. Well, that was completely against my family. My dad was a pilot for Delta Airlines. It just didn't make sense to me. And I would read scripture, and I never where did it really say Jesus was poor. He was a carpenter, so he was always working. Now, during his ministry, he may have taken a cut and pay for a time. But when it says he had no place to lay his head, it had nothing to do with his finance. It had to do with where he was in his community.
Right.
And so, yeah, so that's a mindset that we've had a real hard time overcoming with a lot of different individuals, because a lot of people call trading gambling. And I'm also now a coach for Dave Ramsey. We've had those conversations where this is too risky. This is gambling. It is if you don't know what you're doing. And so there's we go back to the same word, balance. Did I lose you there?
Probably so. We have Starlink and trees, which is a bad combination. You back? Is one of us back? Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I have a little seminar that I do, once a month, and one of the most pervasive misconceptions is that trading is gambling. And my argument to that, especially to the Christian community, is that anything can be gambling. Anytime that you put money at risk thoughtlessly, without a plan, you are gambling. So whether it's trading, whether it's picking the wrong college degree and dropping $100,000, buying the house with the wrong, anytime you put money at risk and you don't know what you're doing, you're gambling. But for some reason, I think that people associate and say essentially that trading is only gambling. Well, I got news for you. You go to the casino and put $100 on red on the roulette wheel. Sure, that's gambling. But those guys over in the poker room, they're not gambling. They're a profession. They're applying skill. And it is in this whole endeavor that we've had building godly trading, the biggest pushback I have gotten has been Christians who say you shouldn't be doing this because you are gambling and you're encouraging others to gamble. But have you gotten a lot of that from the Christian community?
When we first started with Trade Masters, we had a mix of everything. We didn't focus as much on faith as we do now. Al and I made a big shift about a year and a half ago now, maybe two. It kind of all runs together. But we started seeing that who we are as traders comes right back to our belief system, and our belief system is in Jesus Christ. I mean, so from the beginning, Al and I weren't talking like that in public scenarios. Privately, we had these conversations a lot, and the mindset for us was basically that we were coming in. How do we teach, again, a mentor or a coach? I'd rather be called a guide, because a guide is somebody who's going to let somebody make their own decision. We're going to guide you, but you're still responsible for that decision. And we battled those things because so many different people come from different, even if they're Christian or not Christian, but if they're Christian, there's so many different belief systems out there when it comes to money. But Christ and the scripture talks about how you use money all over the place. Solomon himself was one of the wealthiest people in the world. And it taught you in the scripture where Solomon was miserable, even though he had a lot of money. So I think it comes back to realizing what your purpose is, what your why, and then stewardship. And realizing that every loss that you have is not God punishing you. It's not a punishment. Maybe it is a person who needs it more than you somewhere else. I don't know the answer to that question. All I know as a guide, it's my heart that I go into with it, and what is my purpose? What's my why? And so when you come to the trading table, you've got that spiritual piece of it, the spiritual battle, and then you've got that emotional, mental side that you're battling constantly. Because what I'm finding is a lot of times With trading, you got your flesh, you got your fear, but I'm thinking of a couple of things that when I'm looking at how things are stirred up in me, and I can't speak for everybody. Greed will come out from time to time, fear, definite pride,
Yeah.
sense of loneliness. Those are wonderful things that trading can be. You can also become self-reliant when you start earning too much money. You can get into even idolatry, because we can idolize the money that we're making, and everything seems to be subtle, but it's there. And those are completely contradictory to the fruits of the Spirit.
Yes.
So you have to be real careful in, not allowing those pieces to overcome you. And that's where, when I see a loss, I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, hey, let's go get losses so I can be more like Jesus. That's not it at all. I'm very competitive. I'm still competitive, but I have to also know who holds my purpose.
Yes.
And if God's called me to be a guide, which I believe he has for this time and season, then that's what my job is. Whether I make money or not, that's irregardless. I'm a guide first. And I can guide people on all different types of things. It doesn't even have to be spiritual, trading necessarily, but when you come into trading, for me, it's not about the technicals. It's not about the fundamentals. If you're going into deep look at mutual funds and stocks, it's basically a war over your own mind and your own emotions and the obedience of that within your own faith walk. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Sorry, my eyes got big. We just had a lightning, which means we have clouds, which Starlink's not going to like it either. One of the things that I have when I first started with this, and Brian can attest to this, I was a mess. I am a reformed former day trader that will never go back. Bless their hearts, the folks who invited me in his group. There was like this great pepper meltdown of 2018, where every day I'm just going in there and just howling at the moon online. I'm sure Brian had hair before he met me. Everything you're seeing up here is a result of me. And that was me.
And if you could tell by the camera, it's also much grayer than the first time you met me.
but we often hear that trading is mental, that 90% of trading is mental, and you got to overcome the mindset. Honestly, in the last 6 months, the last year, more and more, I am of the mindset that trading is a spiritual journey, first and foremost. And it goes back to, I love the repetitive teachings that I'm hearing on be, do, have. And if you want to have more, you have to do more. But we're all doing everything we can, who we are right now. You need to be more. And honestly, just trying to logic yourself into being a different person who can handle success, who can ignore the emotions. You might can brute force it a little bit, but I think it comes back to a spiritual issue. And you don't hear a lot about that, and for good reason. You don't hear a lot about that in the rest of social media trading world. But I'm of the opinion that without the Holy Spirit, traders are going to have a whole lot harder time becoming successful. And that's probably a controversial opinion. But
you think about traders, though, God knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yes.
And money has a way of really reflecting who you really are on the inside. And I know we've got traders in our room. I know we've had traders come through in the past that with money, they would become the greed. They get further away from the fruits of the Spirit and get self-reliant and self-praising, pride. And I don't know if many traders are able to handle the gift of prosperity. And I think God many times protects us from that.
Probably so. From just a pure emotion standpoint, people often talk about the emotions you go through as a trader. You got fear and greed and all these things. And we always think that fear is the worst emotion that you can feel as a trader. Well, I'm living proof that the worst emotion you can have as a trader is 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Yeah. You will lose. I mean, fear, all fear can make you do is sit on the sidelines. 10 feet tall and bulletproof can make you lose everything, which honestly, it's pride. And I harp on that one because that one was me. I was able to eventually, God was able to, as I'm confessing to other people and say, oh, I'm doing this for my family. And God's like, really? 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 Because, I can see into your heart, regardless of what you're saying. It all boiled down to pride. And all of these things that I was doing was because I wanted to be in control. My entire journey through day trading was predicated on I'm in front of my screen, therefore I have control over the market somehow. And I believe it was under your tutelage that I made that switch to swing trading. And from a control and pride and excitement, adrenaline standpoint, making a switch from day trading to swing trading can be a tough transition.
It's so slow.
Yes, it is like watching paint dry, and that's good. But it is I would say that making that transition for some people is necessary because what you're doing is you're removing yourself from the equation.
Right.
I found
That's it. You talked about that sense of invincibility.
Yes.
Just a little history of me. I was an athlete and 18, 19, getting ready to go to college and play college
darts,
soccer.
right? This is your athletic. You're darts, right? Is that what it was? I've seen you play. It's
Invincibility, and you go into every sport with invincibility. There's a nice positive that comes out of that, but when you forget who created you, he can quickly remind you. In 1986, I was practicing one practice before our first college match, and I was excited about college soccer. I was playing college soccer. One practice before, and I snapped my ACL, and I thought,
ouch.
my whole life went down. Now, I was at a small school, but we were going to be we were supposed to challenge for their national title. That seemed to go out the door. 2 weeks later, and I know what God was doing. He was teaching me that I'm not invincible, that every gift I have is only because he allows me to be able to do that. 2 weeks later, I try out for the ensemble to sing at this college, that a music program that toured around, and I didn't make it. I'd never failed in my life. It never been cut from anything. And so I found
that's probably pretty hard.
Yeah. And I found this place of peace, believe it or not. Obviously I was in a cast for a little bit of time, couldn't play soccer, couldn't be where my friends were. All my friends were part of the ensemble, including my sister, and I couldn't be a part of that. And some of my professors came to my dean of students and made mention, you know what, he's happier today than he was before. What's going on? And I think I came to that spot in 86 where I said, you know what, it's okay not to be invincible. And I'll tell you how God restored that after that invincibility mindset. Once I realized that, okay, I'm no longer invincible, I was able to recover and play college baseball the week after soccer season was over with no problem, nothing wrong with my leg anymore. I was faster and stronger. Strange thing happened second semester of the school year. The music director of the school came to me and said, hey, we had somebody drop out. Can you come back in? And I would like you to be a part of the ensemble. So I was able to be a part of something I'd watched for years and restore it. And he still laughs. He passed away. The leader passed away a year ago and still laughs at the fact that I toured for 20 years, yet he was the only one who ever cut me. And so we laugh about that. But I told him, I said, you know what? I had to be humble before God was going to ever raise me up. And the Bible talks about that. If you'll humble yourself, he will do the raising up. But we have to glorify God first. We have to realize who we are first. And if he lifts us up, then we have to realize it's him that's lifting us up. And if he doesn't lift us up, that's still his decision to make. And we have to find peace within that. And I think that plays a lot. You were talking about invincibility. I think that plays a lot with trading too, because I've had traders tell me you're doing it wrong. And I say, and that's okay. They're entitled to say that. But I would come back to them and say, where's your successful track record? Well, I don't have one. I said, I can show you mine, and not being arrogant. I can show you mine. Why am I doing it wrong? Right. Well, you did this and that. Well, I said, you're talking about doing a particular strategy the way you would do that strategy. I said, I've taken that strategy and made it fit me.
Right.
And they still go, you're doing it wrong. Yeah. So every strategy, and we talk about this with the Time Savvy thing on Monday nights, we lay the foundation. It is not going to be something that we're going to trade for you. We lay that foundation of education and then let you build who you are inside of that plan, and then you stick to the plan. I know you talk about sticking with your trade plan, because I know we hammered it when you were with us, and I know you probably still do that. And so once they found those foundations, and they get rid of the fear, they get rid of the greed, they get rid of all that stuff, and they clear all the noise from their head, because that's what we are. We're bombarded with noise 24/7, and we don't know how to think. And so that's a wonderful thing when you can find out who you are in Christ at the same time of how trading comes into that mix.
You know, I am convinced that all of the success that God has in store for us is dependent on us making sure that when it comes, we handle it correctly. The journey. I heard someone fantastic a YouTube channel from Myron Golden talk about the struggle and the journey that you go through to get there is what will keep you there once you get there. But if you take the shortcut, you're gonna get there and fall. One of the hardest lessons, the hardest command verse, whatever you want to call it, comes from I believe it's the Sermon on the Mount, or maybe it's the Beatitudes, which also might be the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, when he says, "So let your light so shine before men that they see your good works and glorify the Father in heaven." And that for a trader, coach, or whatever it is, that I think that is when you know that you have arrived as a successful trader. When you can say, here's me, here's my trading results, here's whatever. To God be the glory, and you are a conduit, not the image you're looking at. And and until you get there, honestly, why wouldn't He hold you back to say, "Hey, I can't give you this thing; you'll self-destruct if I do." Oh, well, now you are honoring me in what you're doing. Now here's what I've been waiting on you. I've been over here waiting on you for 10 years, Pepper. If you would just stop being so prideful, I could have given you this a long time ago. But I think that being able to point people to Him is the entire purpose of this. That's why I'm doing this channel. It's why we're both in this. Is there's so much, especially in the trading world. I think there's just so much. I'm going to use the term here, ungodly trading advice out there on social media. And I don't want to harp on social media because this is social media.
Scams. You can say scams, Pepper.
Yeah.
People who use people.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff Foxworthy has that fantastic joke that rednecks, of which I am one, we're not stupid as a general rule. We just can't keep the most ignorant amongst us off TV. But traders are not scammers as a general rule. We just can't keep the most unscrupulous amongst us off of social media. And it feels like, I know you probably feel the same way, playing whack-a-mole. Every day it's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And you finally get people to listen to realistic truth about trading rooted in scripture. And the next day you start all over again.
We are so sheep-like. We look for that that little shiny object, that sheep that anything that shines, we jump to instead of just sticking with the game plan.
Yeah, it is. The best trading in the world is boring. I think you taught me that. We joke about your system and now mine being as exciting as watching paint dry.
Yeah, it's boring.
But it's that way for a reason, right? It takes. If you've got a system that is so boring that anyone can do it, then you're nothing. You are. No one's going to look at you and say, "Oh, well, look at him." This thing is as boring as watching paint dry, and that's the beauty of it. At that point, that's when you know that you're doing it right. It's when you're not getting any of the glory. And I think well, to be honest, that's probably true of every single skill. I mean, from Drew Brees, the best quarterback that ever played the NFL, right, Mr. Dallas Cowboys fan? I'm sorry.
No. I am the nation's capital team.
Whatever they're called these days.
Whatever they're called.
Anyway,
Washington.
Whatever the skill is that brings attention to you, there's always a danger of pointing your finger at you. I mean, whether you're an athlete or Warren Buffett or whatever it is, our goal should always be to say, no, the attention goes through me to God. And but trading, because trading is so solitary, it's you and your laptop often. Not only do you feel isolated without a community, but sometimes there's just extra temptation, I think, there to say, "Oh yeah, I did that," because it's just me going clickety clickety. When in fact it's not only just not me and God, but me and everyone else who got me to here. I mean, my success right now is not just due to God, but due to you and Al and Pierre and everybody else who was in Trade Masters that helped me to get to this point. I think we lose that. Success brings the danger of losing that. I mean, what do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, I go back to my original coaches and even Al. Every day, if you come into a trading room, whether you're isolated or not, and you're not learning something, then you're already on the downswing. You have to be diligent. The Bible talks about discipline. Proverbs is full of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got all sorts of, and I've prayed for wisdom all my life. And Kim will remember when we first got married 31 years ago. One of my main prayers, give me the wisdom of Solomon. And I look back, that's kind of like praying for patience. If I would go back, I don't know if I'd pray that prayer anymore, because what I'm realizing in my studies and as I'm getting older too, there's a lot of vanity and a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted money and a lot of wasted effort. And it's just becomes this thing, because what happens is we try to puff ourselves up and look and see. It's just like I did with my dad. I would play soccer and say, Dad, look at me. See, please notice me, notice me, notice me.
Look at me.
You want your father to notice you, that you're good at something. And I think that's the same case with trading. Sometimes we get caught up in, hey, somebody take notice. Look what I just created. I want you to look at what I did. And you don't realize all the people that already poured into you for, in my case, 58 years, all the way from the beginning, pouring into me, that allowed me to come up with some of these things. Some of the recent tools that we've come up with in Trade Masters, they overnight success that took 30 years. I mean, I literally stumbled across them. I'm not a programmer. I stumbled across certain things. Then when I shared it with our team and Al, he goes, oh yeah, that's this. And you start collaborating within that, and you realize, you think you're smart, but you realize you really stumbled into it. And that's God just showing you a little bit of grace in your own ignorance, and allowing you to take those things. And hopefully, like you say, you point, when we're trading, we don't say, we're not talking the necessarily salvation message in the middle of a lesson, but our actions, our words, how we act when we're in a trade are a reflection of Christ in us.
Yeah.
And how we treat people is a reflection of Christ in us. And Al and I said we would never use or abuse people. Never. That's a key for us. So we're very, very mindful of the attitude we come into a community with, because I think whether I make money or not, or the individual makes money or not, somebody's coming into our community for a specific reason. They may think it's money, but it may be completely different, because we don't know what path or journey they're on, and we can't walk in their shoes until they share with us. And we've had behind the scenes type. This is what I love about community stuff, is behind the trading, you get to know the people and why they're struggling. Mm-hmm. And when you understand why they're struggling, then that's when the guide really helps. And usually it's just if you just think about this, I've been on the same path as you. Can you do this, this, and this? And all of a sudden, the trading becomes easier, even though they didn't change anything with their trading. Right. Their heart got changed.
No, they have to be the new trader. Because
right.
And Brian and I will both attest to this. Any strategy can work, and you can. Anybody can take a strategy, go tweak, and apply it and have it work. It's all. Well, I was going to say it's all up here. It's all in here. This is what. Okay. Yes.
We're creating God's image. Yeah, we're created in God's image. That doesn't mean we're as smart as God, but we're created in God's image. And if we seek Him first, the Bible says, "Seek Him first, and all these things shall be added unto you." That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be wealthy, because that's not what it's saying. You get perspective. I always wondered, the blessings of God could be health. It doesn't have to be wealth. Right. Longevity of life. I mean, Kim and I have been very, very fortunate. And so, success to God is so much different than what it is in America, where we think it's all material. Yes. It's so much bigger than that.
I think that for us as Christians, first and foremost, as fathers, as examples, first and foremost, success in anything is everything I do brings glory to Him.
Absolutely.
And it's, if you think about that verse, let your light so shine that people see your good works and give glory to your Father. Can you imagine all that's in there? That takes a lot to unpack. How in the world can you hit a ball or throw a ball or paint a whatever? People look at you and their instant reaction is glory to God. That's where we all want to get to. And it's probably a lifetime to do that. And so in our field, it's how can we train people? How can we ourselves train in such a way that, and I'll give you a prime example. I think it's easy to see the opposite of that. There was a time in my life when my family didn't want to hear about trading. They could tell on my face when I came home whether I'd had a good day or bad day trading. And I was raising a generation of anti-traders by the way I behaved. They looked at me and my light was shining in the wrong place. But eventually,
it became your idol.
Exactly. It became
that's the problem. It became the idol.
My own world. In that physics doesn't work like that. But we're finally at the point now where, at least for my youngest, he wants to learn how to trade. If you've ever watched anybody out there has ever watched any of the live where Nick and I try to teach Nick how to trade, it's hilarious. But just because we're both squirrel chasers. But all that to say, shining our light on God is difficult, but it's easy to see how we can quickly, unfortunately, shine the light on ourselves. And
right.
I mean, have you ever had those people that in sort of a larger trading sense, you talk to them and they always talk about that one great trade they have, but they'll never talk about the bad trades that they've had.
It's the same thing as golf. They'll tell you about the one good shot they had, and that's what keeps them paying the money to go.
I forgot you're a golfer. Yeah, apparently you're very competitive. Were you telling me that you and your daughter get into some serious competition in golf? I think you were telling me about that.
We partnered up and played in a couple tournaments, and yeah, we're competitive still. My son-in-law is actually a professional disc golfer.
That's right.
So I mean, we're pretty competitive. One of the things I was going to say, because you sparked something in my brain. One of the things I taught my fourth graders each year. Now, understand in public schools we're not allowed to talk about Christ much, but there's some things that I can do as a teacher that kind of just plant seeds. And I always teach my kids to try to remember in your actions are important. My dad taught me this. Now, my dad wasn't what I call a super believer. I believe he trusted Christ. He got away from the belief because he got his eyes on man. But then towards the end of his life, I think he rekindled his fire. But he taught me something when I was a kid, because newspapers were saying some bad things about me in my soccer game. And he always told me, don't listen to the press. Don't get too high on the good stuff. Don't get too low on the bad stuff. But he said this. He said, remember whose name is on your back. Which I knew what he meant. It was his name that was on my back. He said, but more importantly, remember whose name is on your heart. Then don't embarrass either one of the two, and you don't have anything to worry about. And I tell my fourth graders that. Many of them understand what I'm saying. Some of them don't. But I tell you what, look at my homeroom class as we're going through fourth grade, and if they remember whose name's on their back, which is my name because they're my homeroom, and whose name is on their heart, and I obviously would pray for Christ's name to be on their heart, their actions are so much different than the other four classes in fourth grade, because they hear that every day. Don't go in the hallway and forget whose name's on your back. And there's a sense of responsibility. And I think we as believers have to have that same sense.
Yeah. We have to be constantly aware.
Right, because we're supposed to be a reflection, a mirror of Christ, not a mirror of Pepper or a mirror of Brian. We're supposed to be mirroring Christ. That doesn't mean we're perfect. I get angry just like anybody else does, but we should be a mirror of Christ.
The toughest verse I've ever run across in the Bible, and I have, without this sounding pompous, I've read it through twice. The toughest verse I've ever run across is one of Paul's letters. He says these words: follow me as I follow Christ. I cannot imagine where you have to be spiritually to tell people that.
I'm more Peter. I just say what I think.
It's hard for me as a trading coach to say, follow me as I trade. But to say, hey, emulate my spiritual. But the point there is, you have to remember that everything you do is a reflection of whose you are. The best example, I've got several videos on this, in Matthew and also in Luke, there's the parable of the talents. In Matthew, it's 3 servants, and in Luke, it's 10. The guy who gets 5, 2, and 1 talent. The master leaves home, leaves his guys with 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent. By the way, I don't know if you knew that talent, the unit of measurement, is about 70 pounds. So 70 pounds of gold is about $1.6 million in today's terms.
Quite a bit.
So, anyhow, long story short, these 2 guys went out and doubled their master's money. But of the time, they were known as the stewards of this guy. So they had to make money. They had to make money in a way that honored the person that everybody knew they worked for. They couldn't be unscrupulous. They had, in that day and age, your name was everything. Sadly, probably not that way anymore, or not as much. But they had to constantly be consciously aware of how they conduct. By the way, that word business in there says is the word trading. So trading is actually in the Bible. Side note. But all that to say, they made their money in a way that honored the owner, the person whose money they were stewarding. And I think that kind of goes into what, as a trader, we should think about this money that I have, whether it's our own money, or I say our money, or whether you're a member of a prop firm. In some ways, I think it's better when you're a prop firm because it's easier for you to say, "Hey, this isn't my money; this is their money."
Right.
But even if it is money out of your own pocket, it's still your steward of it. Even if it's a little bit of money. I believe you were the one that told me that you sort of reduced your trading as you were struggling down to where you were risking a candy bar to make a hamburger. Back when a hamburger was, $5 or whatever back in the Hoover.
Risk $1.
But even then, even if you're trading a $10 account, you still would be best if you viewed yourself as a steward of that $10 as opposed to the owner of the $10.
It's still a
Because
hard
your
issue.
steward means it belongs to somebody.
Yeah, it's still a hard issue.
Absolutely. And that's why I think that you hear, and if you're watching this, you can go out there and YouTube search, trading mindset. And 99% of the people in the videos you're going to watch are all about the mental and the psychological element. But I'm going to tell you, I think that the spiritual element is overlooked all too often. And I don't think you can, I'm probably wrong, because who knows the hearts of the people who are successful. But let me put it this way. I think you're going to be a lot better off if you tackle the spiritual element first, as opposed to trying to just brute force it by changing your psychology.
I think your spiritual affects your psychology.
Yes.
Your belief. I think they're tied hand in hand.
I think spirit drives psychology, not the other way around.
I agree.
Yeah. And so with that, that's kind of the journey that I've been on, and I know that you've been on, is this, let's not forget that aspect of it. Hey, most of trading education out there on YouTube, it's all about the charts and the clicks and and very little of it is even set aside for psychology. But even amongst mindset, almost none of it deals with your heart. And I think that's where successful traders are born, is when they get their heart right. And until then, you can be successful, but it will probably be a much harder road.
Well, I think trading kind of forces you to ask that question: am I being led by charts, or am I being led by Christ?
Yes.
I mean,
and I think that, to be honest, for as much as I love helping people craft a trade plan, that's got to be in there. I used to, back during my sort of transitionary period between day trading and swing trading, I had a checklist that I printed out and used a pencil on every day. At the top of it was a verse, and the first checkbox on there was pray. Before you do anything else, get your heart right before you open your chart. And that was sort of the beginning of the genesis of going on the road to being successful, is getting your heart right on a daily basis, not just the one time. Because I mean, trading is a constant struggle of emotions and spiritual elements. I mean, you probably would agree that it's not. You're not ever going to get there and rest on your laurels when it comes to a spiritual element like that.
Right. And, it goes back to what we do too, is I think we would love to have traders become wealthy. If that's what God wants, great. But I think we really kind of guide the believers and even non-believers how they could be better stewards and more purpose-driven.
Yeah. There's a non-Christian avenue here that is there's a moral element to it. That okay, fine. If you don't want to take the spiritual route, if you're not a believer, or if you're a believer in a different whatever, I use the Klingon religion and as the analogy of sort of the catch-all of non-Christian, whatever its name might be. Still, I mean, think about the fruit of the Spirit. I wrote a whole book on the fruit of the Spirit. But love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Tell me what there is in there that the Klingon, okay, fine, peace, but apart from that, what is there that if you're a follower of the Klingon religion that you couldn't apply to your trading and make you a better trader? Right. And even if you're doing it from a non-Christian standpoint. So there's all these elements there. And it goes back to what you said originally. Community, I think, is what helps you. We know that's in our heads. I know it's in our hearts. But day by day, it's going to be so much easier to walk that path if we have people around us. And I know you've got
accountability part. It's
Yeah,
that accountability part.
absolutely.
Paul didn't travel alone.
Right. He had an
And that,
entourage from time to time.
yeah, he had accountability partners.
He absolutely did. And I love his, I think it's in Romans. I'm reasonably sure it's in Romans, when he says, the thing that I do, the thing that I would will to do, I don't do. And the thing that I don't want, essentially he's saying, what I want to do, I don't do. What I don't want to do, I do.
Right.
People often think, oh, Paul, Paul wrote most of the New Testament. But you got to remember, Paul didn't sit down to write a chapter of the Bible. He sat down to write a letter to his buddies who we left back in Rome, saying, guys, we're all in this together. I'm no different than you are. And he's trying to encourage them. I mean, to be honest, when I first read that verse, I'm like, well, great. If the Apostle Paul can't hack it, then what hope do I have? But
well, he also said he was the chiefest of sinners.
Yeah. Oh, wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of sin?
Right.
And there's comfort, comfort in knowing that even Paul required a daily refocusing on the main purpose. But it took him he had Luke with him all the time. He had other people with him. And I think that community is how we do this. So before we get out of here, tell some folks about both your business, Trade Masters, whatever your endeavor, and the community that you built around that, and how they can, what y'all do, and where y'all meet.
Yeah. Trade Masters, we made a shift about, like I said, about 2 years ago, and it's Trade Masters, TRAIDE masters.com is our website. And we put the AI in there because we started seeing the writing on the wall. A lot of traders want something more automated. Some people don't want to spend the time really diving deep into education. Although I think that's, kind of a bad choice to make if you're only coming in for a result for the community piece.
Yeah.
Now, some people don't have the time to trade, nor do they have the interest, other than they want to be in control of their own stuff. We're diving in now in the currency market. I'm using AI to really stream down stock picks. I did a recent 10 stock pick for our community, and Al's all excited about it because they've done real well. And that's been in a month. And we're not day trading or swing trading stocks. We're actually looking in the equities markets to hold a little longer. This geopolitical thing that we're going through right now is huge. It's caused the whole market to go upside down. We can go into a totally different subject when it comes to the global economics and the pressure of the geopoliticals that's going to have on it. As a believer, you and I know that this is just setting up. It's getting closer and closer and closer to going to the cashless society. So we have a community that's mostly of like faith. We meet on Monday night for my swing trading. We have day trading, scalping in the mornings, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We have random market pulse. We do some crypto. Nothing crazy. We never give anybody any sort of, you must get into this, or there's a minimum necessary, you have to do this. We're not quite like that. We're just kind of trying to build a community of like faith people who just want to help each other. That's pretty much what, and have outside of the trading, we want to know each other. And, from being a part, we sit and talk outside of trading for hours. And we do it a lot. And we are finding out that that's kind of catching people off guard because they've been in other communities where it's not that way. So we're building I hate saying that, like what Trump said, a movement, but we're trying to shift our focus into a movement for, it's not just traders, but disciples. We guide them, without getting too deep into theological, because that's not the place for it necessarily. Our actions are speaking louder than what we do in a trading room. So we want to be God honoring and kind of guide them in that realm as well. And we are doing great things.
Yeah, I've got the link, if I spelled it correctly, and I'm pretty sure I did, down at the bottom of this video. If anyone wants to check them out at TradeMaster.com, that is where I got my start. I was with them up until about a year ago when the boys and I broke off to do our own thing. And, honestly, we need more faith-centered trading communities out there. I mean, they can't just be one. We've got to be
true faith-centered, not the ones that are just saying they are, but they actually live it out.
That is absolutely true. We need everyone to be honest, to start their own communities, and people can join as many as they want. But I really appreciate you giving up your Sunday night to come join us here.
Hey, I'm just missing church. I'm just missing church for my friend.
I way to lay a guilt trip on him. Jesus duped me right there at the end. Can you believe that? All right, guys, that is it for tonight. Thank you for being here. Sorry for the little glitches. Like I said, Starlink and clouds and trees don't always mix, but we'll be back next week at 5. Brian, thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.